A well-respected author and New York Times columnist returns to his hometown. History comes alive at the Old Depot, and the Twin Cities Film Fest is coming up at the West End. Plus, more news you can use.
Welcome to this week's edition of Life in the Park. I'm Scott Smith. In our cover story, well-respected author and New York Times columnist Thomas Friedman returned to his roots in the park, and he sat down with Park TV's Reg Dunlap. That's coming up, but first, here's news you can use. The St. Louis Park Historical Society hosted an open house at the historic Milwaukee Road Depot at Jorvik Park on August 30th. It was well attended, and visitors were treated to an interesting presentation by Doug Johnson about the history of railroading in the park.
In 1886, St. Louis Park acquired its name. When it persuaded the Minneapolis and St. Louis to build a depot here, if they do that, we'll name our town after you. So that's how St. Louis Park got its name. This is International Milling, the interior elevator where Nordic Ware is today in 1968. This is a Minneapolis and St. Louis passenger locomotive in 1945. And the book cover is a Minneapolis and St. Louis Doodlebug, or self-propelled passenger car, making a flag stop here in St. Louis Park at their depot in 1958.
Hey, this year's Twin Cities Film Fest is scheduled for October 21st through the 31st at the Shops at West End and Showcase Icon Theater. You can attend the 2015 TCFF Fall Preview Gala and be one of the first to view some of the great film selections that will be part of the 2015 lineup. The preview event will be being held on September 11th from 6 to 9 p.m. at the Shops at West End. For more information and to buy tickets, visit TwinCitiesFilmFest.org. The St. Louis Park Human Rights Commission is hosting Coffee and Cultural Chat, an event that highlights engagement of the city's diverse ethnic groups in an equal, affirming, and positive space. The conversation will take place on Thursday, September 17th, 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. at the St. Louis Park High School Auditorium. Residents of all cultural communities are invited to this open discussion. The Southwest Beyond the Yellow Ribbon We Unite benefit concert for our military families and veterans, originally scheduled for September 3rd, has been postponed until sometime next year. Hey, remember, the next Fair for All takes place on Tuesday, September 8th from 4 to 6 p.m. at the Central Community Center, 6300 Walker Street. You can save up to 40% off grocery store prices on fresh fruits, vegetables, and frozen meat. There is no pre-registration, and the program is open to everyone. For more information, visit fairforall.org. Well, hey, have you come across an old musical instrument that is no longer making music in your household? The St. Louis Park Community Band is looking for band or orchestra instruments for its Gift of Music instrument donation program. Gift of Music, part of St. Louis Park Friends of the Arts, accepts donated musical instruments, refurbishes them, and gives them out without charge to interested kids, often identified by teachers in the elementary schools. To date, over 700 instruments have been donated to students who otherwise would be unable to provide their own instrument to play in a music program. For more information about making a donation to the Gift of Music or to learn more about the St. Louis Park Community Band, visit their website at slpband.org. The brand new Recycling, Organics, Recycling, and Garbage Guide was sent out to all solid waste customers on August 28th. Extra copies are also available at City Hall and the MSC. Both the guide and a new recycling calendar are available as links to PDF documents on our website at stlouispark.org/garbage-recycling/garbage.html under the resources section. Hey, one great new option that our residents will have because of Hennepin County's Recycle Everywhere campaign is to print or order free household recycling, organics, or trash labels for their in-home bins. These labels can be printed or ordered through a link to the county's ordering page found on our website, slpmn.us/organics. You may also want to consider organic recycling, by the way. St. Louis Park residents are able to separate their organic materials from garbage. Any resident who has city garbage service can participate. To find out more and to get started, go to stlouispark.org/organic-waste.html. Have you ever given a thought to sports announcing? Well, Park TV has an opportunity for you. Volunteer announcers are needed for a number of high school fall sports teams. If you're interested, please contact Paul Broden, Park TV 16 program producer, at pbroden@stlouispark.org, or give him a call at 952-924-2635. There is no minimum commitment required, and scheduling can be flexible. Previous experience is not required. And now to our cover story. Thomas Friedman is an American journalist, columnist, and author. He has won the Pulitzer Prize 3 times and currently writes a weekly column for the New York Times. He has written extensively on foreign affairs, global trade, the Middle East, globalization, and environmental issues. Friedman was born in St. Louis Park, graduated from Park High and the University of Minnesota. He recently returned working on a new book and is including a chapter about how growing up in St. Louis Park influenced his worldview and politics. Park TV's Reg Dunlap sat down with Friedman on a visit to City Hall.
Thomas Friedman, welcome back to St. Louis Park.
Great to be here, Reg. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate having you on Life in the Park. And what brings you back to St. Louis Park for this visit?
Well, I'm actually working on a new book, and it has a chapter about Minnesota and growing up in St. Louis Park. And so I'm come back to interview, seen the mayor and the city manager, and that's what brings me to City Hall. But I'm also interviewing some of my old and most famous, most favorite teachers. I have the best job in the world. I mean, somebody has to have it. I've got it, and you don't. I get to be a tourist with an attitude. I get to go all over the world, wherever I want, whenever I want, write whatever I want. And as long as I have, from the New York Times point of view, 2 interesting attitudes a week, that's what they pay me for. So they never ask where I'm going, and they never know where I am until they read it in the newspaper. I visit China once a year, and I was just there about 6 months ago. You know, China's really struggling with, you know, the Chinese challenge is China's got to get rich before it gets old, okay? Because when you have a one-child policy, it means you have 2 grandparents, 2 sets of grandparents, and 2 parents all saving for the Mac laptop of 1 kid. But after 30 years, that flips, and you have 1 kid who's got to pay the Social Security, health care, and retirement, and support, you know, 2 parents and maybe 1 surviving grandparent. So China has to get rich before it gets old. And the only way you can do that is by shifting from a manufacturing assembly economy to a knowledge economy. And that's hard to do if you're censoring Google.
Well, Bookmark in the Park's book for this year is called I Am Malala. We used one of your books several years ago as one of the selections.
Oh, really?
But,
that's great.
In case you need a bookmark, here's a bookmark.
All right. Well, that's great, Reg. Thank you very much.
And I wonder if you can make a book recommendation then to our St. Louis Park audience, something you recommend for either light summer reading or for any purpose.
Well, one of the best books I've read in recent years is called The Unseen Forest, and it's. I think of St. Louis Park as a bit of this, and the author, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on it right now, but he was a biologist and ecologist, and he basically carved out, I mean, just identified a sort of 5 square meter patch of old growth forest, I believe in Tennessee. I read several years ago now, and he visited it almost every day for a year, and he tells the whole story of nature from that little 5 meter patch of forest. And the reason I come back to St. Louis Park a lot is you can actually tell a lot about the world from this little 10.8 square mile patch of Minnesota.
Thanks to Thomas Friedman and Reg Dunlap for this week's cover story. Last week, Life in the Park bid farewell to Jane Kim, an inaugural member of our Life in the Park team. Jane is pursuing her master's degree in business journalism in New York. We wish Jane all the best in her future endeavors, and we'll miss her contributions to the program. Remember, you can keep up to date in the park by visiting our Facebook page at facebook.com/St. Louis Park, or check us out on Twitter at twitter.com/St. Louis Park. That's it for this week's edition of Life in the Park. Thanks for watching. Join us next week for another edition of Life in the Park right here on Park TV.
Hi, I'm Lisa Abernathy with your Rec Minute. St. Louis Park is committed to promoting and integrating arts and culture and aesthetics in all city initiatives. One way of doing that is our Arts and Culture Grant Program. This grant program is a partnership between the City, Friends of the Arts, and the Community Foundation to provide funding support for local artistic efforts within the community of St. Louis Park. Applications for 2016 projects will be made available on the City website starting on May 18th. Check out the City website for more information and a list of past recipients.